Welcome to MicdIn Pod. We are your hosts, Jeremy and Val.
That's me.
We are not experts, just parents of 2 college athletes and 2 in youth sports.
On this podcast, we're bringing together athletes, parents, and coaches to talk honestly about youth sports recruiting, pressure, identity, and everything in between.
Thanks for being locked in with MicdIn Pod.
We're super excited to have you all here and really excited for our next guest. He has dedicated his life to developing athletes as well as being a former collegiate basketball player. Not only develop them for what they can do athletically, but also for their mindset as a founder of XFactor basketball and also Better Every Day. We are so excited to have Rocky with us today and really great. Really, grateful to have him here as a guest, but also really grateful for what he has brought in our lives by helping to develop our children and truly athletically, but also in their mindset. So there's so much to say about Rocky, and I know Jeremy wants to mention some more about the amazing stats that we read about.
We got so Rocky is a trainer, and he trains he trained 3 of our kids. But I didn't know who Rocky was really until I did a little deep dive on Rock. All right? So Rocky, he went to Mansfield High School. I'm just gonna glaze you a little bit, Rock. All right? He went to Mansfield High School. He's in the record books. He's all over the record books in Mansfield for scoring and assists and minutes played. He's a Hockomock Player of the Year, the first Mansfield player ever Hockomock Player of the Year. He's Hockomock MVP. He's averaged 17 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. He's a Boston Herald Dream Teamer. Then he goes on and plays at Bridgewater State, and he's all over the record books at Bridgewater State. 13 points a game, 16 points a game. He's a monster on the court, but also he's just a good guy. And
very good guy.
He would be great as a guest to spread some knowledge. And people don't know him outside of Massachusetts, but in Massachusetts, he is a living legend. Rocky DeAndrade.
Well, yeah, no. First of all, I want to say thank you to you guys for creating this platform. I think this is a conversation, especially with all the things that you're planning to talk about. This is something that needs to be talked about, and I think for both of you, it's very unique because you have, athletes that have played in college, that are playing in college, and then also having your 2 young boys that are coming up. It's like you cover a broad spectrum of parents. I love the intro, Jeremy. Appreciate you for all that. But yeah, I'm excited to take a deep dive into what we're going to talk about today and, spread as much as I can about kind of development and just how, what it takes for athletes to really see growth in themselves and growth in their game.
And that's why we brought you on, Rock, because you've trained over 1,000 athletes. You've had 50 college players and pro players. So we thought that you have a real vast knowledge of what it takes to get there. And so in your opinion, what is the difference that you see between athletes who reach that college level and those who just can't get there?
It's the things that they do when nobody's watching. It's like, who are they when nobody's watching? I think that is the biggest separator between the people that actually end up making it and the people that just talk about it or that just want to get there, right? So a good example is my guy, Bruce St. Tillis. I've worked with Bruce for over 6 years now, okay? And actually, this is year 6. And Bruce is a guy that in high school, he was always a good player, but never was the best player on the court. Right, but you look at him, you probably wouldn't say, "Oh, he's going to be a certified professional basketball player." Bruce comes to me this right before he goes to Clark, and he says, "I want to have a really good college career, and I want to go be a professional basketball player." So, all right, we talked about, okay, Bruce, well, if that's going to be true, what do you need to do? And so we lay down all his habits. You look at Bruce; he shows up to training early, at least 45 minutes. He's prepping his body. He does his pre-workout routine. He gets in the workouts. He's dialed in. As soon as the workout's done, he's doing his post stretches, goes home, he fuels up. What does he do next? He then goes to do a midday lift, after his lift, there's a good chance he's going to come back to the gym and do another workout session later on. And like that is not something he did once in a while. That is something Bruce does every day.
Wow.
And no one's telling him, Bruce, you have to do these things. It's Bruce has embodied that is what I do, whether somebody's watching and recording or whether somebody isn't. He doesn't care. That's just who he is.
Wow.
And I think a lot of players miss that because they say they want to do these things, and then you look at what are they actually doing on a day-to-day basis, and they're not living up to whatever it is that they set for themselves. So, you look at Bruce, I always say you got to become what you want to be before you actually are it. Bruce became a pro before he even was one. And now we fast forward all his years through Clark, he got better every year. And now he's playing in Ireland, where he just finished up his first year, and he absolutely dominated.
Wow.
So it's no surprise. It's just it's he was doing what he had to do every single day, and no one had to tell him how to do it. I'm gonna go get after it, and I don't care if anybody's watching or not.
I like that. I like that. So become
Yeah.
what you want to be before you become it.
You have to be, yes, you have to embody whatever it is that you're trying to be before you become it. So
I
I
like that.
you can't just set goals and then expect for them to happen. I think setting goals is one thing. I think having a good why, a good reason for why you set the goals is a whole nother thing because that's going to help when things get challenging. But then the third piece is you actually have to believe and embody that, okay, I am now somebody who is a great shooter. Okay, well, what do great shooters do? And then you have to do those things and take the action that great shooters do.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought up a lot of good points that made me want to ask a lot more questions. One of the questions, uh, yeah, we have our boys who are playing youth sports, and we tell them all the time, the same way we told the girls, is that you have to fall in love with the grind. You can't just fall in love
Mm,
showing up on game day and
right.
wanting to score the goals or wanting to have so many points at the end. It really is about falling in love with the grind. So, I mean, we have our kids, our boys are young, 10 and 8, and,
Yep.
been coming for a while. And so we constantly are reiterating, and now they just know what they just expect, and they really enjoy working out. But what do you think that young athletes need to do before they get to high school to develop?
So I would say that's the first one is genuinely like fall in love with the game, right? And how do you do that? I think one, you can't be forced, right? So you never can make somebody love something, but if you put them in the right environments and they start to gravitate towards wanting to be there, like what you guys do with training for, your boys, I think that's right on. And then I'd say, for them, like being in the driveway. Like I remember being a 8-year-old kid and pretending that I was 1 against 5, and I would play every position on my imaginary team, trying to, dominate the game. Or I'm Allen Iverson,
Uh-huh.
trying to be my favorite player and copying their moves. And I think, um, just having that imagination and having that genuine love for the game, I think is the first thing. And then the second thing is obviously with any sport, I think you need to have a baseline, uh, you know, growth of your skills. Like you can't expect to be, even if you're extremely dominant and let's say you're way bigger than everybody else or you're way more athletic than everybody else. Yeah, that helps, obviously. But the skill piece has to be there too. So like developing your skills. And I think you can do that in a fun way. I think the grind, yeah. We talk about, the grind and I think that's necessary. There's gonna be, challenging moments to it, but it's also something that can be fun as you go through it. But yeah, I think, developing that I think the last thing too is the most underrated would probably be just developing through stress and under pressure.
Oh,
So when kids get to high school, if they never had that, when they get to high school, the stakes are a lot higher.
yes.
You have way more people at your games. Right now, you have a student section that's saying things about you. Right? Are you built for that? And then there's just with all that energy, and there's parents that are screaming and all kinds of things. Like there's a lot of outside noise that now has entered into and I think I see this actually in youth basketball. I mean, you guys could probably say you've seen a little bit there in youth sports too, but um, just now that the pressure is a little bit higher, like have you been tested under that? So especially with like skill development, it's okay, it's great to develop good techniques and develop your skills, but if you have not tested those and actually played against other people or played with other people, then by the time you get to the game now everything's going to feel foreign to you, to your body, because it's like I've never actually had to work on my handle with somebody who's pressuring me.
Mm.
That's a very different skill than somebody who's, just working on their handle, and okay, well, yeah, I worked on my technique, but I never did it under pressure.
Ah.
So there's a lot of things there. I think I kind of just covered there, but I would say ultimately, like, developing a baseline set of skills, obviously having that love for the game, but then also being able to test yourself and battle and compete, and develop that understanding of how to use your skills under pressure.
I mean, when we started talking about doing this podcast and having these conversations,
Yes.
there's so much in the media right now about people getting NIL deals and Division 1, prospects and recruiting, and for us it was different with our oldest who was played soccer at Division 1, and
Yep.
the second one who's playing basketball at Division 1. But so much development and so much of getting to that point started in youth sports, and we know that there's especially with females dropping out of a lot of sports before they get to the high school level, not even the collegiate level. And with this podcast, we really wanted to focus on the fact that it's not just about the end result of getting to get
Mhm.
a scholarship or playing at in the college level. There's so much development that happens in the youth, and there could be a lot of negatives with that. So when you bring
Oh,
up the challenging thing, we're talking about parents yelling at other people's kids when they're playing at a third grade basketball game, and we're
yes.
talking
Yep.
about
Rocky, I've been there. At third grade, that I
I
had to
believe it.
scream at parents because they're yelling, and I'm saying, like, this is no one's getting drafted today, no one's
Right.
getting recruited today. Just let them have fun. We have to let them fall in love with this game, and
Right.
yeah. And parents, other parents taunting other kids during games and calling
oh,
out they're traveling, or we've seen it on so
it's
many
so
levels.
bad.
So
It's so bad.
it's interesting when you talk about the challenges of them never playing against their opponents with that amount of pressure. But you're right when you say about the stands and the fans and that. So there's a whole other layer of pressure that we see more people more bold about it than they did even 5 years ago now.
Yes.
And so athletes are not even just walking onto the field or in the arena or on the court with the pressure of their opponent. They're
Right.
dealing with the pressure of the stands because people are so outrageous with the things that they'll say to children, and
Right.
so um I'm glad you highlighted that.
Yes.
So Rock, what advice would you give to these parents?
Exactly that. I would say put your kids in positions where they will, one, fall in love with the game, two, in positions where they can develop, right? So how can they build technique and build their skills, but then also putting them, in environments where they can now develop the mental side of the game, which is through games, right? So, like, when your boys come and train on Thursdays, like that, they are constantly being put in situations where they have to now compete with other kids, and learn how to lose, right? Learn how to make mistakes. Learn how to, when you turn the ball over, what do you do? What's the next play? I can't tell you the amount of kids, whether they're 18 years old or whether they're 12, that when they miss a shot, it's like immediately the first response is to, look up at dad or look
Oh
up at
yeah.
mom,
Oh
or
yeah.
Yeah.
to like, negative self talk, and it's like, yo, it's you missed a shot in a training session.
Yes.
It's not that deep,
It's
right?
Yes.
And
not.
like,
Yes.
but the thing is that there's somewhere along the line in their journey they have convinced themselves that it is that deep, and maybe it wasn't even to no fault of their own. Maybe it is something that the parents have done or said, or the expectations that have been placed on the kid, that every time that you do something wrong, you need to look at me because I'm going to give you feedback on what to do better. It's like, yo, if your kid is focused on you when they should be focused on the game, they're not going to be as good as they can possibly be in the game. There's no way their attention can be split in two different directions. So, as far as maximizing performance, my ultimate recommendation, and this isn't to say this is true for all athletes and parents, right? There are some kids that, they actually do well. Like, right, if they look at their parent, and their parent gives them like a motivational, like, let's go, like, that's actually helpful for them.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about them, but it's more so the parents that, when their kid does something and it's like some sort of, like, negative reaction, like, throwing their head back like that, or what are you doing? Like, that's how is that going to then help your kid to play at the best that they can play, which is ultimately what everybody wants. The kid wants it, you want it, the coach wants it, the teammates, all the parents who are rooting their kids on, who are on, your team. So we got to think big picture. What do we actually want? And sometimes it means that you need to kind of take a step back and, really observe the way that you are giving feedback to your kid.
That's a very good point. I give a quick story. I was at a game this past weekend, and
Mm.
it was a young girls. I don't couldn't even tell you the grade, but I was talking to one of the parents, and he said, "That's our best player over there, and she always plays good, except when her dad is here." And he said every game she plays really, really good. When her dad's here, she does not play well. And I looked over. I was looking at the stands, and I said, "That's her dad, isn't it?" I picked him out,
Wow.
and he was like, "That's him." And he was, you could just see the stress on him, and
Yep.
it rolled over to her onto the court. So what
Yep.
you're saying, it speaks volumes, and I think that really a lot of these parents need to just bring it back a little bit. Listen to Rocky. Just bring it back a little bit. Like let the kids fall in love with the game. You know?
And I think like I feel like we all, a lot of us, I mean, if sports fans, we're from New England, right? We can all be spirited, but it's like kind of reading the room and reading what's going on with your kid. I think
Yep.
there's so many other things we can go into. I'll just touch on this briefly, but I think the cost of youth sports, the cost of the other stuff, that parents are getting overly invested because I mean, nowadays when you AU, it's all summer long, right? So this essentially becomes family vacations. This essentially becomes money that you're spending on hotels. And, parents get so invested in the fact that their kid is, they're spending so much money to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're looking for an outcome. And I think it's different from saying to your kid, hey, you're there, work hard versus putting it all pressure, like for your kid to, I mean, sometimes the parents are living through their kids
Yeah.
to
Yep.
be that star athlete that they miss or that they wanted to be, and
Hmm.
it's too much pressure, I mean, but don't get me wrong, we've told our kids like, hey, if you don't want to do this, then we don't keep spending money to go here and do this. You don't want to do this because it is a family investment, being
Right.
honest. It's a family investment when your holiday weekends, every Memorial Day, we were at soccer, every Labor Day, we are at these tournaments, and then we're spending the summer in Kentucky, which, there's some good things in
Right.
Kentucky,
Yeah.
but it's not where I want to spend
No.
vacation. You
No.
know what I mean? Like at an AAU tournament, I mean, and we're bringing two, toddlers at times that are just sitting on the court, for hours with no
Yeah.
sunlight. So,
Right.
uh, do you see the parents, I think that has something to do with it. To some parents' credit is that it is a lot of money and they're doing it a lot.
Yes.
Their kids love for this sport, and so when you see your kid holding back, I mean, some kids it works to motivate them, some kids it doesn't, and so
Right.
we're all learning. We're all learning, and that's why I think these conversations are important.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Right.
different than when we were younger. So when I was a kid, Rock, and I told Val this, she knows the story. I went to Philadelphia, and years later, like I went to Philadelphia for a basketball tournament. Years later, I'm talking 20 years later, my father asked me, and we were having a conversation, and I said, "Dad, you remember when I was in Philadelphia for a basketball tournament?" He said, "When were you in Philadelphia for a basketball tournament?" And I said, "How did you not know that your son left the state and was down south playing
Right.
basketball?" You know what I mean? And it was different back then. Like uh, the coach came up to a bunch of us and said, "Everybody give us $20, and we will rent a van, and we will drive down to Philly, and we were in a hotel, and we stayed there for a week off." $20. Don't ask me how it happened. Don't ask me how they figured this thing out with the math, with the money.
I know.
But it worked out. And so when I was growing up, my parents weren't on me about playing sports. You know what I mean? They were I was out there playing and having fun. So I think
Right.
the money part is a big deal, you know?
It is. It is. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, that's valid, right? You're paying all this money for your kid to, reach their goals. And like, yeah, with that comes, okay, now we are making a much bigger investment
Hmm.
and now there's more on the line. So I totally understand that. And I think for, um, for those families, I think it's just something to consider. Okay, now that you've put in all this money and time and investment into your kid, do your due diligence and making sure that what you are signing them up for is actually something that is going to be good for them, right? Because I think you look at like a eighth grade family, right? And you're signing up for these tournaments to go travel and play at all these, all these different states, and for a very few amount of kids, that actually makes sense at that age. But for most, it really doesn't, because what are you going to get out of it? Obviously, traveling with your friends and all that, there's invaluable experiences there. Don't get me wrong, but I think to go travel at a middle school age to do all these tournaments, to pay thousands and thousands of dollars, um, you know, typically what AAU was designed for was recruitment, right? So that actually makes more sense in high school.
Hmm.
Whereas in middle school, I think the focus actually should be more on development.
Okay.
And then, then as the kid develops the ability, okay, I'm actually a really good player. I could go play for one of those top AAU teams that's gonna go play in those tournaments, that is gonna give me the opportunity to get recruited. That's a very different story. Um, Too many times I see people just sacrificing like even their ability to grow as a player, and now they're playing on, a great team, but they're not even playing in the game,
Yeah.
and they're expecting to get recruited. It's like that's not how you're going to get recruited. You got to go play, you got to perform. Like, so playing on a team that may not necessarily be as notable, but gives you more opportunity to then actually showcase what you're capable of and show your impact on winning. That actually would put you in a better situation. So, uh, I say all that to say, like, okay, yeah, there's way more investment. Now, just, I guess, do your homework and make sure that you're not just doing what everybody else is doing. You're actually doing what's best for your kid,
Yeah.
because it actually looks different from one kid to another,
Yeah.
in terms of, everybody's trying to go play at this level, but not everybody's journey is necessarily going to be like this, right? Some people need to be here first and then jump to this, and then now they're going to get to that level just at a
Yeah.
different time.
And I think too, like, like the systems of youth sports have a lot of parents drinking the
Yeah.
Kool, you know what I mean? And like
Yep.
it took us a while to even figure out the system for basketball was so different than soccer, and you people would, you got to get locked in on these teams because of politics a lot of times too. There's no wiggle room, right? Especially basketball, there's only so many players on the court. Soccer, it has bigger rosters and bigger, more players on the field, but some of these teams by time eighth, ninth grade goes around, those girls are locked in on the team and they're playing together for the rest of the high school. And
Hmm.
getting, your kid on that team, if you're not in that program, can
Yep.
be a lot more challenging. So I get why parents are trying to get in certain systems or certain programs earlier because
Right.
they want that opportunity when their kid hits eighth or ninth grade. And then they tell you you have to do this, and your kid wants it so bad, and now they have friends, and now all of a sudden, so it's a constant evaluation of, you know, what's best for your kid, where your kid is really at developing, and then the mental
Yeah.
health for your kid, like the benefit of them in the long term, and those check-ins, which I felt like were really important for us.
Yeah.
100%. You hit it right in
What
there.
what's your perspective on separating good athletes from great ones in terms of, and I bring that up because when our second daughter, who's trained with you for years, I remember one day, she's getting up. I didn't even hear her at first when she left. It was early morning, 7 a.m. practice, or 7 a.m. training in the morning. And the day before, she must have told me it was at 7:30 or 8. So when she was leaving at early 6, and we're only 5 minutes from the gym, I'm like,
Hmm.
well, why are you gone so early? Because she's not typically the one that's getting up earlier than
No,
she has. So she's
definitely
going to give her
not.
some wiggle room. She's not going
Yeah.
to, it's right. So she's out the door way
Yeah.
before. And she told us, I mean, you could elaborate on this, that they were meditating, that you had them meditating, and that they were working on being intentional for why they were there. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I love that. I love that. Loved hearing that. Um, Obviously because of mental health, things that I think a lot of athletes can struggle with at times, and people in
Yeah.
general. But the intentional part of it, and that being not only incorporated from something that, we I say, and as like a woo woo meditate, for your peace, but
Right.
also to be straight up, coming from a man about that, and someone that's training, that's actually having them be so mindful and intentional. I'm impressed. I love it, and I just would love for you to speak a little bit more about the mindset.
Yeah. So at the gym, we, especially with the college group, all summer, I've actually been really impressed with the college athletes that we've had, but I'm not surprised because of who they are. But they would, we have two groups that run, one at usually at 7:30 and then one at 8. And the 7:30 group would meditate at 7 a.m. So like everybody shows up 6:50 by 7 a.m. They already know the speakers on, lights are off, we're meditating, right? And so sometimes that looked like we would actually be doing a 10 to 15 minute visualization. Sometimes that would look like we would literally just be there listening to a growth mindset podcast, right? And it's just like usually it's a compilation of like the best quotes from different podcasts. So it's just like a motivational video, put it that way. And what I wanted them to do was understand that were starting the day with intention. We were starting the day with positivity and with, just actually putting, you know, positive thoughts and just growth mindset principles into their head so that they started their day with intention, right? And so now what happens is a lot of people, they may wake up and the first thing they do is go on their phone, right? They scroll on their phone and now they're consuming without even knowing it. They're consuming social media stuff that may just be polluting their brain, right? So what I want them to understand is that when you start the day with intention, it sets the tone for the rest of your day. So I know this from experience because I started doing this in 2018, this was right after I graduated college, every single morning, and I've still do this to this day. I start my day with something that will help me grow my mind. So whether that's a visualization or whether that's listening to one of these motivational podcasts, and it just again sets the tone for everything going forward. And now instead of me, kind of starting my day from like step 4 and I'm in a daze where I'm like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. It's like, no, I've already set the intention. I know what I have to do today, right? I'm clear minded, and that I think was so critical for a lot of those kids, because then it kind of just puts them in the right mindset to then dominate everything in front of them.
Mm.
And again, I talk to everyone that I train. I say, look, all what we do on the court is going to be important, but what you do off of it is going to be just as, if not more. And the mindset piece of that is, step one. I think if you don't have your habits right, if you don't have your mindset right, we can do all the stuff on the court as we want. But when you get to the season, again, talking about not being, mentally there, or not having developed anything under stress, by the time you get to the season, everything we worked on in the summer, well, now it's irrelevant because you are not mentally ready, spiritually ready to then take on a whole 4 month season of just consistent mental struggles, which is what college, at the higher levels in college and pro, like that's what it is. Like a lot of people go into those levels thinking that it's going to be sweet, but like it's not. They recruit you like, hey, we can't wait for you to come here, and you don't see a lot of the things at that level that is going to present itself to you. And if you actually train your mind, you don't train yourself to be able to handle and be real with yourself, then when that happens, you're screwed. So
Yeah.
that was a big reason why we worked on the mindset and getting grounded and just understanding that everything starts with intention.
So
Yeah, I
in your
love it.
training sessions, is that something you do typically like all the time, or is that just periodically you'll do a meditating thing?
So we do that with our college and pro group. So those, because there's more flexibility in timing, right? So if during the week on a Tuesday we have middle school, high school kids coming in, they show up at 3:45 for a 4 o'clock session. There's really no space for them
Okay.
to do that. Obviously, the gym is loud, but in the summer when we have the pro and college groups come in, because it's a lot quieter, no one's in the gym yet. We have the access to be able to do that.
Yeah, I've told the boys that you did that. and training sessions. So we actually do the 5 minute Peloton sleep meditation just at night to settle their brains,
Okay.
Yeah.
they love it.
Love
They
that.
love
They
it. They
it's
love
they
it.
love
Yeah.
it. They ask for, they're like, are we meditating tonight? So just slowly getting them in there. Just more
That
so
is
to like
so
settle their
good.
brains and kind of
Yeah.
and stay with it and
And
their
and
bodies.
boys are different. Boys are just different animals than girls, and so I think it's good for them to just start bringing it down because my boys at night they're still going. They're still going. So I think the meditation just is like, oh, let's bring it down. You
And it's
know?
just 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but it's like candy for them at nighttime. They like
Yes,
they
Right.
it is.
like yeah, they're enjoying it. So we've been on it for a little bit and they like it. So, but I
Yeah.
want to highlight that because I think that's different than I don't know about other a lot of other trainers, but I think that was really different, a really key thing to incorporate, especially going to college, separating from home, and being able to get a little grounded in yourself and in your with what you're here for and if you see, I think it's important because I think that you kids can get on the path where they want to play in college and then it gets hard and there's family not around them and support and it's different and they're
Yes.
learning how to communicate differently. So I felt like it was a really great way to constantly recenter and
Yes.
check in with yourself as far as where you're at. And I just thought it was a really amazing practice that you added in.
Yeah. And if I could add too, so I think when we talk about the players that are, strong-minded versus the ones that when they get there they struggle a lot, I think the reason why that stuff was so powerful doing the meditations and stuff in the morning, because the when you have a growth mindset, you typically look for solutions, right? You don't look for excuses. And I think if you look at the prime example could be like the court time or the playing time example, right? Where two players could go through the same situation where they are not playing in the game, right? They're not getting a lot of minutes. And one player can look at it as, coach isn't playing me. I'm better than those players that are playing above me, and they're taking all the Kool Aid from whatever everyone else is saying about why they should be playing and why they're not, and it's just all excuses, right? And it's all external. But then you look at other players that have that same exact situation. They're not playing yet, but their response is that they're going to take ownership for it. So it's like, look, I'm going to look for solutions. It's like I must not be playing to the level that coach wants me to play, or I may not have developed the trust that my coach needs me to develop with them in order for me to be able to play. So now that they've taken that ownership and said that it's because of me that I'm not playing, not because of coach or because of them, now they can look towards where are the solutions, right? And now, okay, so coach doesn't, or coach, what do they always get on me for, right? What are they constantly telling me to do in practice that I'm not doing? What is it that's holding me back from getting more playing time? Am I not making shots? Do I not know the plays? Like once you start to ask those questions, then you can start to find solutions in terms of what it is you need to do to take action to then get in better positioning to get the playing time. But if you don't look at it as it's my problem and
Mm-hmm.
I have to, take responsibility for this, you'll never even see the solutions because they're going to be blocked by excuses,
Yeah,
Yes,
external things that are in
yes,
front of
yes,
you.
I like
yes.
that. Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing is like developing a growth mindset gives you the tools to then look at everything as a possibility, as a blessing, as a lesson, as an opportunity, which then allows you to reach the highest level that you want to reach. And I think that's ultimately the biggest thing of why we do things like that and develop the mindset and put so much emphasis on that.
Hey, Rock, I have a question.
Yeah.
You train everybody. You train kids, adults, boys, girls, amateurs, professionals. You train everybody. How do you adapt your trainings to the different personalities in the gym?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
yeah.
let me probably put this out there. So when Jeremy started coaching the girls, um, young, I said to him, I said, listen, I said, you are probably with the amount of times they're playing, you are probably going to be the male person they spend the most time with outside of their father. How you speak to them
Mhm.
matters. How you
Hmm.
engage with them matters. I
Yep.
said, and I was speaking more to our girls' personality types. They were a little bit more of a type A with pleasers, and they valued that because of the good relationship that they had with him. So I
Right.
said, so just be mindful of your words and be mindful of what you think might be doing that is I don't want to say inspiring, but that is motivating. What you think is motivating,
Mhm.
what they take like in
Yeah.
terms. I don't necessarily think that's necessarily different from boys to girls and completely, but I was really mindful of the fact that it was a man coaching young girls versus, and I do see some differences with
I thought it
what
was great
I was.
advice. I thought that was great advice when you told me that. Like it was wonderful. But and what I thought was uh, girls, and this is my opinion. I don't want to step on you before you
Right.
answer your question, but uh, when girls will, they seem to be more. They need to respect their coach. They need to like their coach. Boys will. I played for coaches that I couldn't stand. You know what I mean? I played with people that I couldn't stand, but it didn't matter. Like I'm running through the wall anyways. You know what I mean? I'm doing whatever I
Yep.
can. And I just
Because you're
think
happy to play.
I'm just I feel like boys just want to play, and we don't care. But I feel like girls, uh, I've seen girls not like another girl, and they will look them off and pass to somebody else, and I'm like, wow, like that's wild. Like they just
Right.
it's to me they're different. You know what I mean? And but I
Yeah.
feel like the girls would value when you gave me that advice, and I'm like, yeah, the girls. I felt like the girls really liked me. They respected me, and I wanted them to fall in love with the sport because at some point they're going to get a coach that they're going to hate and they're going to
Yep.
want to quit. But they're going to love the game so much because they, we all fell in love with this game such a young age. They're not going to quit because of that love. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to build off that, I think the most important thing is understand who's in front of you, right? So because somebody is a boy or a girl doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly how I'm gonna, stereotype the way I talk to them, but there are a lot of generalities, right? And so I think with how I, whoever's in front of me, I make sure that okay, this girl is somebody who needs to have that trust first, right? Like you spoke about, and she needs to know that when I coach her, that I'm coming from this place, right? Because if I go at her and I'm going full authoritarian motivation, that's not going to resonate with her. She doesn't like that. That's not going to be the way she likes to be coached. Whereas somebody else who's like, "Yo, I want everything. Teach me this, teach me that. Tell me when I'm wrong." Like it's very different. Um, then my communication style will alter and change because of who I'm then coaching
Mm-hmm.
then. But there are things that I will not compromise, right? Like I will not lie to you and tell you that, hey, you're doing great when you're not. So like I may say instead of if a kid is not getting it, I may say not yet. Whereas for a kid who's able to, take that coaching, that hard coaching, I'll be like, nope, nope, because I know it's gonna like trigger in them like, oh,
Ah,
like he's being competitive with me. So um, obviously that baseline level of respect is across everything as it should be, but it's more so just the way you communicate to it to a boy or a girl, and specifically how they like to be coached. It can vary in terms of the delivery and obviously what is said.
I mean, I think uh, kind of speaking back to your intention and delivery, a couple things. I think sometimes that is when tailor that also can be a hindrance when they get to a collegiate level because they've been used to that. So that,
Hmm.
so when our girls will have challenges with coaches and honestly they're close with all their coaches to this day that they've had even from youth. I remember our oldest would say, "Oh, he always yells at me. He's always
yeah,
yelling
yeah,
at me. He's
yeah.
always telling me this and that." And and so we come home and be, venting and upset with us, upset about it. And I would remind her that he has good intentions. I mean, her coach would literally tell her, like, if you don't your other foot, then you're probably going to be a D-back in college because you need to be able to finish in front of that. And
Yeah.
we would
Right.
say, that's real.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
real
Real.
talk.
Yeah. Because
You're not
she
shooting
just wants to play
like
offense. You know,
you.
she wants to play
Right.
forward or striker.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So if you're not doing what he's asking you to do, or you're not working on those skills to improve that, then that's probably a reality. Or maybe you're not playing at that level at all. That's
Right.
on what you're gonna work on. But we really focus on the coach's intentions. And I think that goes also back to like knowing the environment that your kid is in, reading the room.
Yes.
And so we could always attest to the fact that he's a good person. That coach is a good person. They may be pushing you harder. They may be challenging you. They may not be saying things you don't want to hear, but that doesn't mean they're wrong. And that doesn't mean
Right.
that they don't have good intentions for you to be a better player. It's up to you whether you figure out a way to accomplish the things that you need to improve to play at the level that you have set goals to play at.
Right.
But that was a big difference with them. The boys, oh, that's still loading. We'll see. We'll see what happens with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. 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 No, I get it. I get it. We'll see
Yeah,
how it
but
goes.
you're right, right? Like sometimes you really do need to, and again, this goes back to like telling the truth, right? So you can't compromise that. So if somebody's really just not doing what they need to do from a standard level, I don't care how nice you have to be, right? Like at some points you gotta tell them the real truth. Like, yo, like I understand you want to play at this level, but you are not hitting these simple things of just straight energy, effort, or you name it, just anything that needs to be corrected. And I think that's another way that you can get it across. Like, hey, you just like you need to be better in these areas if you're going to reach the goals you need to reach. So just like that's one way to say it, and then another way, if for a different kid, maybe more about, um, I need to be more firm with them, right? Like, yo, like, come on, let's go. Like, there's no way you're gonna go play at that level next year, and you can't even do X, Y, and Z. And just again, the delivery may be different, but the kids need to hear, right? Sometimes it needs to be a little bit more aggressive, or it needs to be tough love, tough coaching, because at that next level, if they never got that, when they get there, they're not ready
Yeah.
for it. And that's often what we see a lot of the times. Coaches at the higher levels, they don't really, obviously they're there and they also have great intentions, right? But there's plenty of times where kids will go from high school to college, and it's like they start to question of whether they still love the game, and
Mm.
it's because of the ramp up in coaching and the less attention to their feelings that coach has, right? Because that coach has 14 other players they got to worry about. They probably have way more, risk in their job, right? If they're not winning, they're out. So they need players that are, for the team. They're going to come in and work hard. And if you can't meet those basic things, and God forbid they yell at you and you can't handle it, like, that's a you problem, right?
Mhm.
So and I think there's obviously times where coaches will, cross the line, and it is what it is. Like that's not okay. But I think most coaches, within the boundaries of respect, even if they're coaching you hard, they're coming, like you said, Val, from a place of good intention, and they need that from a younger age as well, not just when they get to college, pro level, because by that time it's too late.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, bringing up the different, having the boys and the girls, because we obviously have two girls and two boys,
Yeah.
and four different personalities, and so we are constantly juggling what's right for one, what's right for the other, also then staying consistent with our family values, our goals, as a family unit, as a home
Mhm.
team, and
Right.
then trying to help them with where they need to develop as humans, and then where they want to develop as athletes. It's challenging, and so we hope there's more parents out there that bring us questions, and also can attest to some of the things that they're going to. So really great to have you here and talk about so much stuff, and
Good
I feel like
stuff.
we could
Good.
talk to you for hours.
Yes, but so we're gonna get ready to wrap up now. But we do have a
Yeah.
segment that we run. It's called the Orange Moment, and the Orange Moment basically means uh, before you before sports got crazy, before sports got serious, before it was always a time where we would always sit down and you pass out orange wedges to everybody. This is all fun and games, and everybody's having fun. And then after a while, those orange wedges are gone, and now it's serious. So we have a segment of Orange Moment, and we want to know if you had an orange moment, and what was it?
Yeah, seventh grade, AAU basketball. It was sixth or seventh grade. I went to a AAU team where there's a bunch of other local kids, and I was coming from a team. My travel team was really good, and so I came to this team, and I'm thinking like, yo, I'm definitely one of the best players on this team, but my minutes were mad low. Like I just was not really playing much, and I remember going to my dad like, am I not doing something right here? Why am I not playing? And like, why is he playing his kids over me? And like, all the dads that were coaching, playing their kids. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm definitely better than them.
Yeah.
But that moment, and I thank my dad to this day. My mom's the same way, but my dad could have easily been like, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna go talk to him because you are better than those kids and you should be playing. My dad just looked at me and I remember him telling me like, okay, well, you just need to be better. You just need to get better.
Yeah.
You got to be so good that coach will play you. And I just took that. I've never ever looked at a situation like I've had moments where I didn't, play a lot of minutes after that, right? Like my sophomore year in high school, I went back to that where I was playing, but not a ton of minutes for a span of the season. And then in college, my freshman year, again, going back to 4 or 5 minutes in a game, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
But my mindset was different because of what my dad taught me, which was, hey, if you're not, happy with your playing time, well, then you need to do something about that. And it's not go to your coach
Yeah.
or complain about anything else. It's about you getting back to the drawing board and working on your game so that it's undeniable that you need to be on the floor. That was my orange moment for sure.
I like that.
Oh, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I mean, it shows that you had an opportunity right there to pivot one way or the other in
Oh yeah.
something that's challenging, and you dug deep. And thankfully, again, you had a parent behind you that also, pushed that, promoted that, and celebrated you doing some work within, and for that to develop, for you to develop that mindset, that growth mindset, and
Right.
figure and not try to have an instant gratification moment for you. I
Right.
would say that like the bulldozer parents that are just bulldozing any adversity that their kid goes through, and then we wonder why they struggle so much later. But thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
And listen, thank you for coming on our show. We really appreciate it. Where can we find Rocky? If someone's looking for extra training or want to find you on social media, where can we find Rocky?
Yeah, so I'm on most social media platforms with the tag RocksteadyRD3. So if you just type in Rocky, I'm Rocky DeAndrade. I'm sure you'll find my Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube. And then I also have two websites, one for XFactor, which is the local basketball training that we run here in Foxborough, Mass. And then Better Everyday Basketball, which is my personal training where I will travel to train individuals and teams and clinics. So those are the areas where people can find me.
Nice, nice. And I will say we have three children that work out with Rocky. It's worth it. Go check him out. He will get them going, get them where they want to be.
Yeah. And I will also just add for anyone who wants to get their daily dose of growth mindset tips, go follow Better Every Day because every single day we post something to help you develop a growth mindset. And, everyone who does it, they rave about it. So go do it.
Awesome,
Better
awesome.
every day.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me on the show. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for being locked in with MicdIn Pod.